Let's take a trip back to 1980 with this original Zaku gunpla from 1980, a year after the release of Mobile Suit Gundam the anime. These line of gunpla came out and the Zaku was one of the first, and this is part of that original lineup. Inside the box, it's kind of different, kind of the same as what you'd be seeing in gunpla nowadays. The biggest difference is the attention brought to the few points of articulation that this has, which I'm assuming was pretty revolutionary for its time. As you can also see, the instruction manual quite a bit smaller, as well as the amount of runners you're going to get. This is technically 1/44th scale. It is technically a high grade by that standard, but you're going to be getting a lot fewer pieces to work with than high grades we'd be getting nowadays. And something else you might be able to notice is there's quite a lack of different parts. The foot is all one big piece, the torso is all one big piece. Most of these are just one or two pieces to create certain aspects of the Zaku. And I don't know if it's just because of this runner, but there's a lot of plastic on here that should not be there. But let's get these pieces out, let's get them cut so we can start building this guy, shall we? I already mentioned the weird plastic, but look at the runner for the fin on the Zaku's head. Pretty interesting. I don't know if it's just quality control that wasn't really there back then. I can't really fault it too much. This kit is about 45 years old, so let's get to building this. One thing you're going to notice with these pieces is, again, all this extra plastic. You're going to see seam lines, you're going to see mold lines. There's not going to be a lot of quality control, I guess. I don't even know if you could call it that because of the age. But this plastic, it's very strange. Look at the texture on it here. I don't know if this is just because it's old plastic or what, but it does not look like anything you get nowadays. Typically, I don't recommend cutting out every piece like I did here, but because it's special and there's not too many, I figured, why not? We're just going to be sanding and cutting out all the nubs before we try to smush these pieces together with the liquid cement that's going to be necessary, because these pieces unfortunately are not snap build like any kits nowadays. You have to push the two kits together with some plastic cement. And again, look at the plastic on here. Very interesting. Surprisingly, for how old this kit is, it still handles the same as any other plastic you get in kits nowadays. Just needs a little extra tender love and care in some spots, but nothing that a seasoned model builder can't deal with. But once all the pieces are cleaned up, now it's time to actually build it, and this is probably where the biggest discrepancy between kits nowadays and it lie. The instructions are a little more, I guess you would call, advanced, just because there's more than one step in each little box illustration, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing so you don't mess up your kit. This may or may not be foreshadowing to later on. And of course, like I mentioned, we're going to be needing our Mr. Cement here to get the pieces together. Something that's very interesting about the head here, other than, of course, having to glue it together, is the fact that it doesn't have a hole for the fin up top. This was very interesting, and I wasn't sure exactly why this was the way it was. That is, until I decided to go take a look over at the instruction manual, where I saw that we, believe it or not, have to cut the plastic to make a hole for the fin. It doesn't come pre-cut. I don't know if this was because of limitations at the time or what, but you can see there's a little tiny crevice in both sides of the head here that you basically have to carve out to make room for it. So I don't think this is going to look as nice as it definitely could, but this is what we have to do. Definitely would have preferred a pre-cut hole, but hey, I don't think it'll look too bad. Let's go ahead and get some cement in here, get this head together so we can actually start this building process. For the cement, I'm just going to kind of lightly apply along the edges on both pieces. I'm going to be doing this for a majority of this kit here because so much of it does just sandwich together piece onto piece here. I don't know if you're supposed to use this or if you're supposed to use just a regular glue, but I found success with this, so I figured, why not? I also took extra precaution making sure each piece was firmly in place before I decided to do anything else. Didn't want any weird or lopsided pieces on this kit. So now all we gotta do is get some glue up on the head, and okay, that was a bit much. Give me 1 second here. Let's try to clean this up. I'm not sure if this will be the best method to clean up this. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is a glue and I'm using a cotton swab. This is just gonna get cotton all over the place. This is not a good idea. So yeah, let's let's just try to get this fin on there, shall we? For a makeshift hole, I don't think that looks too terribly bad. And I don't think that this head looks too terrible either. Again, for something from 1980, the amount of detail there is serviceable. Obviously, with a little bit of paint and some extra effort, this thing could look pretty darn nice, but we're not doing that today, of course. We're just going to be putting this guy together. So let's move on to getting these pipes onto the head now. Pretty simple peg on both ends, just goes into the front and to the back of the head. Obviously a little bit of Mr. Cement helps. And there is our completed Zaku head. Again, a little bit of paint, some panel line I suppose, maybe some sort of seam removal will do this kit justice. But moving over to the machine gun now, it's kind of interesting. Again, we're just kind of sandwiching some parts on with Mr. Cement, including this peg that's almost basically just a little bit of runner that was already pre-cut diagonally that's supposed to go on here. I want to get the scope on first because I think that will be a little easier. Again, you're going to notice a lot of red. There's no color separation anywhere, so some paint is definitely going to be needed once we get this done. I don't like this though. This part, it just feels weird. It doesn't feel like it's part of the machine gun. It feels like it could fall off, but there it is, I suppose. It doesn't look too out of the ordinary compared to the ones we've got now. Obviously, just a little less detailed. Next up is the first of my mistakes on this kit. We're just sandwiching the hands together, but it took me a little, luckily I caught it in time, but it almost took me too long to realize I had both the ends of the hands connected, so one would have no thumbs, the other would have two thumbs. But we got that fixed. These guys just sandwiched together like everything else. The arms are really where this build starts getting interesting. These upper arm pieces just kind of sandwiched together, but now we have to put them into the wrist unit here, and it's interesting. They kind of go in, and it feels like they're in there, but because there's no polycaps or there's no actual movement pieces, it still doesn't feel quite right. The hands just kind of lay in there until we can get the other part of the wrist unit on. Again, interesting, I suppose. But we'll give this a little bit of that liquid cement and just kind of plop this piece on. That snap was by far the most satisfying part of this build so far. I'm going to give a little extra cement in here just because I'm seeing a tiny bit of gap. Again, I don't know if it's just because these pieces are old or what, but it doesn't seem like they all fit in properly. We'll do that for the other arm, and now we move on over to the shoulder units. These are kind of the same thing where we have this little extra, this is an actual movement piece in here, that we kind of slot in between the two different shoulder pieces, and then we're just going to be liquid cementing it. And with that, we're pretty much going to have the first arm done. We're of course going to add in the arm shield as well. That just kind of pegs in there. These things are kind of interesting. We'll come back to them later, but essentially these are what allows the arm to do any sort of movement. It just kind of place in here until we C-clip them later. But yeah, another really interesting design choice on this guy. We're going to get a lot of the exact same type of build over here on the second shoulder, just sandwiching the pieces around the upper arm hinge, circle joint, I don't know what you would call it, as well as adding in the movement piece in there that allows for that up and down movement. Again, not really sure what you would call that, but look at this amazing articulation that we're getting on the kit here. So amazing. I bet people back in 1980 were mind blown. But next up, we're moving down to the legs, and this is again where the instructions, they're looking a little interesting. And this is going to be the biggest of my mistakes I made when building this kit. You might be able to spot it here shortly, but essentially we're just going to be putting in the top part of the leg and we're going to be connecting it to the bottom part of the leg. They just kind of snap into place like so. And then we're going to have to add in the piping as well. It's kind of the exact same as the Zaku's from now, actually. You just kind of slot this in over the hole here, and then we're going to have to slot it into the hole back here, just with a little bit of finagling. But let me know if you've been able to spot this mistake I've made, because it took me far too long. I'm sure all of you already see the issue that's staring right in front of us. But no, I didn't see it. I looked at this for the entire time. But again, we're just going to add some cement. We're going to, unfortunately, really clamp down these legs here to make sure they are in place and will not move. Wow, I really made sure these are going to be there. I regret this so much. But hey, at least we're getting a little bit of that nice knee movement. Let's move on to the second leg where all this cement, it's sticky everywhere. Don't like it. We're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. And I took a look at that leg. I made sure I got the upper piece in there right. But this is unfortunately where I realized my mistake far too late. As you see, there's no hole down here in this leg unit to add in the piping. Yeah, it's because I decided to put both of the outside pieces of the legs onto one leg. Yeah, and guess what? Because I decided to really pressure those in to make sure they weren't going to move, they're not going to move. So those legs, they are stuck in place. And yeah, try as I might, I'm not getting that piece off. So I channeled my inner master builder techniques and I decided let's go ahead and just nip off the connector bits that were on this leg here. And of course I have to do this for the other side as well because they are both the exact same piece. And I thought, oh, surely that should be enough to get them together, right? But no, as you can see, there's a little bit of a gap in the middle here because these two pieces are technically a little smaller than both of the other side pieces. So not only is one leg going to be bigger than the other, this one, it really is not going to want to fit together. So let's go ahead and try to get this guy cemented up to the best of our ability. And as you can see, yeah, there's gaps everywhere. I don't like it at all. And I guess I still couldn't reckon with the fact that I made this big mistake because I, once again, try my hardest to get these pieces to come apart. But again, more time has passed. That's not going to happen. This gap keeps happening, and I needed to come up with a solution fast. So I decided to take some nubs off of the runner here to try and, well, fill that gap. And I saw that there was just a sliver there. So I thought, well, what if we get this little sliver off the runner? We can surely just crank that in, fill that gap, and hopefully these leg pieces will be able to slowly fuse together with the help of these extra bits of plastic. So we go ahead and cement this in, we shove that piece in there, and then we're going to do the same with a little bit of extra small nubs on the bottom as well. Now I knew that this was not going to look pretty at all, but I thought at the very least if this can make the fuse in, we can always sand these nubs down and get this looking better. But to make sure that this was going to stay together, I decided to give this thing a little clamp down just to make sure we weren't going to get any separation, that the cement was going to do its job, we were going to get a full leg piece. And you know what? I think that this is not as bad as it looks. It looks really bad, but I don't think this is as bad as it could have been. After we gave it some time, we're going to go ahead and get this guy back out and see if, okay, it looks like the fuse is held. Okay, 1 score for me, 0 for this guy. I think, but now that we're past that, we can finally move on with finishing up this build. The legs just go together with this kind of Y joint, and that just kind of clips into the bottom of the torso here, and we are just going to fuse the top part of the torso onto that. The arms, they wait. The head does still kind of clip in the same as the arms, just kind of sits there until we get the back piece on. But I don't know, this whole build has been very interesting. It's so similar yet so distinctly different from Gunpla nowadays. I don't know. It's I don't know if I'd recommend this or not, but I do think it is a uniquely different time. We're going to give this guy a little bit of a clamp too, just to be sure that we get this in, because this is the most important fuse. Now that I feel comfortable with that torso fuse, we're going to do the same thing with the arms, give it a little bit of that cement action on both the actual arm section of the torso, and that little C-clip area I mentioned kind of has a little slot joint that it just clicks into there, just like so. And then we will do the same for the other arm. And with that out of the way, we are nearly done with this build. All that's left is to add in the backpack and the extra pipes that go on the torso up to the backpack. And that just goes in kind of similar to a lot of backpacks nowadays, just the two little holes in the back. It doesn't want to fit in all the way. These pipes, they don't have an actual home to sit in. I just kind of cement them in and they just kind of look like they're there. At least on the back. On the front side, there is a little peg that they go in up on the waist unit there. But other than that, this guy, ooh, he can't really stand, but he's pretty much done. So let's take a look at this guy, shall we? He's unique. I don't know. It's so weird because I know this is the like origins of gunpla, but it feels so different compared to kits we have nowadays. Let's do a little bit of articulation test. Yep, and that's the articulation test. Not going to get a whole lot of it. But let's take a look at the most current version of the Zaku I have, that being the real grade Zaku. And it's kind of weird. They are not that far off. I know it's because they're both Zakus, but you can see a lot of the similarities in the kind of bulkiness of the arms, the way the head is laid out. It's so different, yet not really. Except for here. The legs, obviously, don't worry about my mess up. But they just don't want to stand, whereas this other Zaku, he's got a whole flat foot. It's very interesting. There's a lot of seam lines that I got to clean up, a lot of my mistakes that I got to clean up. We'll figure out something to do with that piping. I don't think that'll be that hard of a fix. I don't know about all these seam lines though. I'm really worried about that. But if you enjoy this type of content, want to see me fix this guy up, want to see me paint him, make sure you follow and subscribe because we will be doing that eventually. But yeah, this kit, really cool. I don't know if I recommend getting it or at least building it if you do get it. Cool collection piece, but I don't know if I want to do another one. But anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.